What is going on, guys? This is Prodigy, and obviously the Super Bowl is over now. The Denver Broncos have pulled out the victory. It is official. Peyton Manning has got his second ring, and I'm happy for him. Right? The Denver Broncos played a great game. They ended up beating the Panthers, like I said, which was to my surprise. I didn't think it was going to happen, but they played an amazing game on defense. And Peyton Manning was able to go out with his second ring because I'm pretty sure he's going to retire after this. At least I think he should. But yeah, so Von Miller ended up being the Super Bowl MVP. That was very well deserved. He played a phenomenal game alongside DeMarcus Ware and all the rest of the guys on the defense. They really worked that Carolina offensive line and really put the pressure on Cam Newton if you watch the game, you would know they just dominated the Carolina O-line, and they really didn't know how to handle it, man. So defense wins championships, and that was very, very clear in the game this Sunday. So, all props go to the Denver Broncos. Nothing but good things to say about them. And shout out to Gary Kubiak, too, because he has officially won his first Super Bowl ring as a head coach, and in Denver, too, which is where he played. So that's great for him as a coach. He used to coach the Texans, so obviously I have respect for him, too. But yeah, so what I actually wanted to talk about was related to Cam Newton, and particularly Bill Romanowski and some things he had to say about Cam Newton on Twitter. You guys might have heard about it right now, but I wanted to give you guys a different perspective on it. So after the game, Cam Newton was visibly upset, as most of you guys know, and it's understandable. You just lost the Super Bowl, the biggest game of your life, and you're not exactly happy. Now, Cam Newton did shake hands with Peyton Manning and all the guys. In Peyton Manning's words, he was very humble. He was very respectful to Peyton Manning. He showed him a bunch of love after the game on the field, and had nothing but good things to say about him. So, really started once they got off the field in the locker room, and particularly in the press conference. Now, a lot of you guys heard Cam Newton walked out of the press conference room during the interview, and most people assumed it was because he was upset, which is true to a certain extent. But what a lot of you guys may not have realized was that the Denver Broncos, some players, particularly Chris Harris, was talking in the exact same room in the post-game conference as Cam Newton. And it's so blatant that you can literally hear Chris Harris talking pretty loudly while reporters are trying to ask Cam Newton questions, and you hear nothing but Chris Harris talking over them. Now, Chris Harris doesn't know that Cam Newton is right there in the same room because they can't really see each other, but they're there and obviously within an audible distance because Cam Newton, you can see on his face as Chris Harris is talking that Cam Newton is hearing everything he's saying. And, who wants to hear the team that just beat you talk about how they beat you while you're trying to do a post-game interview? And that, I can understand why Cam Newton will walk out in that situation. Could he have handled the situation better? Obviously, there's always a way that you can handle the situation better. But in the heat of the moment, during the time of the incident, I could completely understand why Cam Newton walked out of that post-game interview. And, a lot of guys called him immature for it. A lot of guys said he was a sore loser. I don't think he's a sore loser. I don't think he's really immature. It's a heat of the moment decision. Does anybody really make the best possible decision at any given point in time? And, it's just one of those things. You look back on it, obviously there was a way you could have handled it better. But like I said, I can completely empathize with him on why he would choose to get up and leave that interview. Because that was very poor managing on the NFL's part, placing those guys so close together during the post-game conference, during the Super Bowl. That's just poor management, in my opinion. That should never happen. But, it is what it is. I'm sure Cam Newton will, get over it. And I'm sure he'll be back to the Super Bowl as well because the guy is very talented. He's on a great team, and he's far from finished. So I'm confident that Cam Newton will be back to the Super Bowl. But moving on from that, let's talk about Bill Romanowski and the things he had to say about Cam Newton after the Denver Broncos won. Now, you guys probably saw this too, but let me shed some light on it. After the game, Bill Romanowski tweeted something. I'm going to have the tweet on the screen here. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but you guys can read that. But the particular thing about it is he uses a word that is very, very, it's kind of a trigger word for black men in this country, particularly. And that word is boy. He calls Cam Newton boy. He says something along the lines of, "You're not gonna last long in the league with this attitude, boy." Now, a lot of people may not understand the context behind that, but let me shed some light for you guys. Now, back during the civil rights era, the 1950s and 60s, this is during the time where whites and blacks are still segregated. They can't use the same restrooms, can't eat at the same places, can't drink at the same water fountains, can't ride the same. They have to sit at the back of the buses and let white people sit at the front. And blacks people were generally treated very poorly and very unfairly. Now, during this time, black men were often referred to by white men as boy. And they did this for a variety of reasons, but basically to sum it all up, it was to imply that the black men were inferior to the white men and that they had authority over them by calling them boy. Like, because when you say boy, that's something you say to a small child or your son or somebody that you're trying to scold. So white people back in this time use this word boy to kind of assert themselves as more powerful or more important than black men in particular during this time. So with the racial undertone that this word has, because the history of the word is clearly racist for black men, maybe not so much for other races, so you might not understand, but for black men that word has huge racial undertones, and Bill Romanowski is old enough to know that. He is old enough to know what type of connotation that word has with black men, particularly in the United States. So he was dead wrong for calling Cam Newton a boy, especially on Twitter for the entire world to see. Not that it's right anyway, but for you to do it on Twitter for the entire world to see, that is extremely stupid and a very, very poor choice on your part. And he deserves the backlash he got for it because it was, like I said, it was a very poor decision. Now, if you guys you guys may not understand, or you may be too young to understand the racial undertones. So that's why I took this time to make this video and explain to you guys why that is not okay and why Bill Romanowski deserves this backlash that he's getting for using that word on Twitter. He didn't call him the N-word or nothing, obviously, but it still has a very strong racial undertone, and Bill Romanowski is old enough to know that. So he definitely deserves all the backlash he is getting right now. I'm sure people will forget about it soon anyway, and things will go back to normal for him. But I just wanted to shed some light on that because I've seen countless people who just can't seem to understand why that is not okay and why you can't do that. So hopefully you guys were able to understand that. And that's going to be all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video. It would be much appreciated. But that's all from me, guys. This is Prodigy. I'm out.